The afternoon sunlight streamed through the huge crystal chandeliers in my sister Victoria's dining room, scattering soft sparkles across the polished floor like tiny stars. The room felt too perfect, too expensive, too far from anything that belonged to our everyday life. As soon as we stepped in, I could feel Emma shrinking beside me, like she already knew we didn't quite fit in here. I helped her straighten her dress, a simple, clean cotton dress from Target that I had ironed twice that morning just to make sure it looked nice. It suited her sweet nature, and she looked beautiful in it, but compared to the designer dresses swirling around us, it suddenly looked plain. The other children wore outfits from brands I'd only ever seen in magazine pages, fabrics that shimmered, ribbons that looked hand-stitched, shoes that cost more than our monthly car payment. "Mommy, do I look okay?" Emma whispered. Her voice sounded small and unsure, nothing like the confident little girl she was at home. "You look beautiful, sweetheart," I told her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. And she did. She didn't need glitter or silk to shine. Marcus stood a few steps behind us, hands tucked into the pockets of his khaki slacks. He wore a plain button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled neatly to his elbows. No luxury watch, no designer tie. Nothing that matched a sea of Armani and Versace surrounding us. Next to the glittering crowd, the three of us looked like the budget aisle version of a family portrait. Victoria swept by in a champagne-colored silk dress that draped perfectly over her frame, likely costing more than our entire month of groceries. Her heels tapped across the marble floor like tiny hammers. She didn't even look at us as she leaned forward to Eric, his guest behind us. "Darling," she called to someone else, "so glad you could make it to our little gathering. There were at least 60 people filling every corner of her home for this 25th anniversary celebration. The catering staff alone looked like a small army. My mother walked toward us, expression stiff and unreadable, an expression she'd spent years perfecting. The kind of look that said she was aware of the differences between her daughters but wasn't going to say it out loud. "Sarah, you made it," she said. Not joyful, not proud, just a simple fact, stated plainly. "Of course," I replied. 25 years is a big milestone for Victoria and James. "Yes." Well, she glanced down at Emma. "The child looks nice." Nice hung in the air like an award for showing up rather than winning. Tyler, our 6-year-old son, held on tightly to Marcus's hand, staring wide-eyed at the dessert table. It looked like a pastry display from a luxury magazine, perfect towers of treats, glazed and sculpted like art. "Can I have a cookie?" he asked, breathing in the sugary smell. Before I could answer, Victoria suddenly appeared at my elbow. "Those are imported macarons from a patisserie in Paris, not cookies. Perhaps the children would be more comfortable in the kitchen. The staff has simpler snacks." Marcus's jaw tightened, but he stayed silent. "They're fine here," I said. Victoria's smile sharpened. "Of course. How silly of me." She floated away like a well-dressed storm cloud. Emma moved closer to my side, her hand in mine. The afternoon felt slow, long, heavy. Across the room, my father held court by the bar, bragging about his newest real estate purchase to James and several men in expensive suits. My brother Daniel and his wife Stephanie were showing off photos from their Mediterranean cruise on an iPad, zooming in on sunsets and wine glasses. We stayed near the window, observing, always observing. A moment later, Christopher, Daniel's oldest son, 10 years old and bursting with pride, raced toward us. "And Sarah, want to see my new watch? Dad got it for me in Switzerland. It costs more than a car." Emma looked at her empty wrist and said nothing. "That's very nice, Christopher," I told him. "What did your dad get you?" he asked Emma, completely innocent. "A library card," Emma answered softly. "We go every Saturday." Christopher blinked. "Oh, that's free, right?" "Christopher, come here," Stephanie called. "Show the Hendersons your watch." He raced away, leaving Emma's small hand to slide into mine. Marcus had moved to the corner. He was checking his phone, but there was something tense in the way he held his mouth. When he looked up and caught my eye, he gave a small nod, a reassurance, or maybe a warning. I wasn't sure. Dinner was announced. We were seated at the far end of the long grand table, as far from the family cluster as possible. The message was unmistakable. We were here because we had to be, not because anyone wanted us here. The meal was beautiful, every plate arranged like something from a food show. 7 courses, each with names I could barely pronounce. Wine flowed freely, but Marcus and I stuck to water. Neither of us trusted this environment enough to dull our senses. So, Sarah, James called from the head of the table, still working at that little clinic downtown. Yes, I said. I'm a nurse practitioner now. How admirable, Victoria chimed in. Working with the less fortunate. Very charitable of you. I help people, I said simply. Of course you do, dear, Mom added. Someone has to. Marcus put down his fork slowly. Very slowly. After dinner, the adults drifted into the living room while the children were guided to the sunroom. Emma hesitated, but I encouraged her. Go on, sweetie. Tyler's already there. She gave a small nod and walked off. 10 minutes later, she came back, eyes red, face tight with hurt. Before I could speak, Victoria approached with a cluster of women in sparkling dresses and bubbly laughter. Oh dear, is something wrong? Emma wouldn't look up. The other kids, she began, but her voice cracked. What happened? I asked, kneeling. They said we don't belong here, that our clothes come from poor stores. The women exchanged looks. One of them whispered to another, not quietly at all, well, they're not wrong. Victoria took a sip of champagne. Children tell the truth. They have no filter. I stood, placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. They learned it somewhere. Oh, don't be dramatic, Sarah. Kids notice differences. It's normal. Her eyes swept over Emma's simple dress, my cheap handbag, Marcus's plain clothes. Some families focus on different values. You've chosen a more modest lifestyle. Nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with how we live, I said. Of course not, Victoria replied. Sugary sweet. Discount stores have their place. Someone has to keep Target in business. The women laughed. Quiet little glass tinkling laughs that cut deeper than anything spoken aloud. Emma's tears came again, soft, painful tears that made my chest ache. Victoria, I said calmly, that's enough. I'm just being honest. I love you. But let's not pretend. You show up wearing clearance rack clothes, your children dress like they came from a garage sale, and somehow expect them to blend in with. She gestured around the room. Maybe it's time to accept that not everyone belongs everywhere. The room went still. Conversations hushed. All eyes turned our way. No room for your discount store kids at this party, Victoria said with that sharp smile. Maybe next time try a place that fits better. Chuck E. Cheese, perhaps. The cluster of women snickered behind her. Emma's face crumpled. That was when Marcus stood. He rose from his chair near the fireplace with a deliberate calm that felt heavier than anger. His phone was in his hand. His expression was unreadable, steady, focused. Marcus, I whispered, but he didn't look at me. He looked at Victoria, then at Emma, then around the entire room of people who had spent the afternoon shrinking us down. He lifted his phone and made a call. David, it's Marcus. I need you to pull the file for the property at 2847 Riverside Boulevard. Yes, that one. Send full ownership documents to my email within the hour. He paused and started a full review of all lease agreements handled by the management company. All of them, beginning with the current primary tenants. The room was so quiet I could hear the air conditioner hum. Victoria's smile flickered. Marcus, what are you? He held up one finger. Still listening. Perfect, he said calmly, then ended the call. He turned to the room. His voice was steady. This house, 2847 Riverside Boulevard. 6 bedrooms. Renovated in 2019. Current estimated market value, $3.2 million. Victoria let out a nervous laugh. Yes, James and I worked very hard. You rent it, Marcus said. Her glass froze midair. I own it, he continued. I own this house. I own the management company that processes your lease payments. I've owned it since 2018. 2 years before you moved in. The blood drained from Victoria's face. That's not James began. Marcus tapped a few times on his screen and held up his phone. Lease agreement signed by James Hartford and Victoria Hartford. Monthly rent $12,000. Landlord MW Property Holdings. He looked at them. MW Marcus Williams. That's me. My father set down his drink. That's not possible. I also own 4 other properties on the street. The anti-Eastern bloc actually bought them through various LLCs between 2015 and 2020. Property development has been very good to me. Marcus's voice remained perfectly even. I kept it quiet because Azara preferred it that way. She didn't want family dynamics to change. She wanted to be treated normally. Paused, letting that sink in. The room was frozen. 60 people who'd spent horse-judging us, now realizing they'd been celebrating in a building owned by Theman they dismissed as beneath them. Thela, a firm that handled Victoria's lease, the inspection company that approved your renovations. I own that too. Every upgrade you've made, every modification till this property passed through. Companies I control. He looked at Victoria. But normal apparently means watching my daughter cry because she's wearing a Target dress to a party in a house I own. Victoria's hand was aching. Why would you hide this? Why would you let us think? Think what? Marcus asked. That you were better than us. That your designer clothes and catered parties made you superior? He gestured to Emma. She's 10 years old. Victoria. She didn't choose discount stories. We did because we'd rather invest in her college fund in her brother's education than in Italian either and French macarons. Stefani had gone pale. Daniel, did you know about this? My brother looked like he'd been slapped. Mom sank into a chair. Sarah, you never said. You never asked. I said quietly. You just assumed. Marcus walked over to Emma and knelt down to her level. Hey, kiddo, that dress? Your mom and I picked it because you love the color. You said it made you feel like a princess. Remember? Emma nodded, wiping her eyes. You are a princess and don't let anyone tell you different. He stood up, keeping his hand on her shoulder. Then he looked at Victoria again. Your lease is up for renewal in 3 months. Given this evening's events, I'll be reviewing whether to offer a renewal or list the property for sale. I'll let Yauk know my decision in 30 days. Victoria's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. The sound echoed through the silent room. Marcus, please, she whispered. This is our home. Our life. We've decorated. We've invested into a rental property, Marcus said, which you can be evicted from with 60 days notice if the owner chooses not to renew. Standard lease terms. You signed them. James had gone gray. We can't afford to move. Not right now. The business expansion, the cars. Perhaps you should have considered that before mocking my children for their clothing choices. Marcus' voice was ice. Sarah wanted to come today. She wanted Emma and Tyler to know their extended family. She wanted them to feel connected to you all. He looked around the room at the frozen faces. Instead, you taught them that cruelty comes in expensive packaging. My father finally found his voice. Now, let's not be hasty. Victoria made a mistake, but a mistake is an accident. Marcus said this was deliberate, calculated. And it wasn't just today. It's been every family gathering for 5 years. Thecaments, the exclusions, the subtle and not so subtle reminders that we don't measure up to your standards. He picked up Emma even, though she was getting too big for it. She wrapped her arms around his neck. We measure up just fine, Marcus said. We just measure different things. Wait. Victoria's voice cracked. Please, can we talk about this privately? Marcus looked at me. I looked at our daughter's tear-stained face, then at Tyler peeking around the doorway from the sunroom, confused by all the tension. No, I said softly. I don't think so. Not today. We walked toward the door. Behind us, the silence was deafening. Sarah, Mom called out. Don't leave like this. We can fix. I turned back. Fix what, Mom? The fact that you've spent 5 years treating my family like charity cases? The fact that you measure your worth and price tags? That ends today. Marcus opened the front door. The evening air was cool and clean. As we raked the car, Emma spoke quietly. Dad, are they really going to have to move? Marcus buckled her into her seat. Maybe, maybe not. That's up to them. Will we ever see them again? I got into the passenger seat and turned to look at me children. I don't know, babies, but I know this. Wherever we go, whatever weather, we're enough. Just as we are, Marcus started the engine. As we pulled away from the house worth $3.2 million, Emma asked one more question. Dad, if you own all those houses, why do we still shop at Target? Marcus smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from him all day. Because a Target has everything we need, kiddo, and we'd rather save money for experiences than things. Remember our camping trip last summer? That was the best, Tyler piped up. Better than a Swiss watch? Marcus asked. Way better, Emma said, her tears finally dry. In the rearview mirror, I could see the lights of Victoria's house blazing in the dusk. Inside, a family was probably having a very different conversation than they planned for this evening. My phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. We need to talk. Then Stephanie. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Then, Mom, please call me. I turned off my phone. Marcus reached over and took my hand. You okay? I will be, I said. And I meant it. Because for the first time in years, my children had seen that their worth wasn't determined by price tags or camping parties. It was determined by dignity, respect, and the quiet strength knowing who you are.